The morning sun cast a golden glow over the sleepy suburban town of West Haven, where life rarely strayed from the mundane. Streets lined with white picket fences and manicured lawns whispered tales of normalcy. But that day, something extraordinary shattered the quiet rhythm of the town. It began in the halls of West Haven Middle School, where a quiet hum of chatter quickly crescendoed into a cacophony of disbelief. Maya Thompson, a bright and soft-spoken 13-year-old, walked into the school building. Her presence, usually marked by a warm smile and her signature crown of tight black curls, was now cloaked in an unsettling silence. Heads turned, conversation stopped mid-sentence, and whispers ricocheted through the hallways. Maya looked different, so different that for a moment, some of her classmates didn't recognize her. Her once rich brown skin was unnaturally pale, almost ghostly, with an uneven hue that hinted at something artificial. Her curly hair had been replaced by straight, chemically treated strands that hung limply around her face. Carla Perez, Maya's best friend since kindergarten, stared at her in shock. Carla's usual bubbly demeanor froze as she struggled to process the transformation. Maya avoided her gaze, clutching her backpack straps as if they were her lifeline. Carla quickly closed the gap between them, reaching out to touch Maya's arm. "Maya, what happened?" she stammered. Her voice carried a mix of confusion and concern, the kind only a best friend could express. Maya hesitated, her lips quivering as though she wanted to answer but couldn't find the words. "It's nothing," she finally muttered, her voice barely audible. But Carla wasn't buying it. "Nothing?" Carla exclaimed, her voice rising. "Maya, this isn't you. What's going on?" Maya's eyes darted around the hallway, catching glimpses of students pointing and whispering. The walls seemed to close in on her. "I have to get to class," she said quickly, her voice cracking. Before Carla could respond, Maya slipped away, disappearing into the crowd. Carla stood there, frozen in place, as the weight of what she'd just seen sank in. By lunchtime, the school was abuzz with speculation. Rumors spread like wildfire. "Did you see Maya? Is it a medical condition? Did her mom do something to her?" The cafeteria, usually a hub of laughter and loud conversation, was now filled with hushed tones and sidelong glances. Maya sat alone at a corner table, poking at her food with a fork. Carla approached her cautiously, sliding into the seat across from her. "Maya," Carla began, her voice soft but firm, "I'm not leaving until you tell me what's going on." Maya sighed, her shoulders slumping under the weight of her secret. She glanced around to ensure no one was within earshot. "It's my mom," she whispered. Carla leaned in closer, her brow furrowing. "What do you mean? What does your mom have to do with this?" Maya hesitated, her eyes welling up with tears. She said I needed to change. She said if I looked different, people would treat me better. She said I'd have more opportunities." Carla's jaw dropped. "What? Maya, that's insane. You're perfect just the way you are. Why would she think that?" Maya shrugged helplessly, her voice barely above a whisper. "She's been like this for a while. Ever since that dinner with Mrs. Caldwell." Carla remembered the dinner. It had been the talk of the neighborhood, a fancy soiree hosted by Mrs. Caldwell, a prominent figure in the community. Linda Thompson, Maya's mother, had been thrilled to attend, seeing it as an opportunity to elevate her social standing. But according to the rumors, the evening hadn't gone as planned. Some guests had made subtle but cutting remarks about Linda and Maya's appearance, thinly veiled under polite smiles. Linda had laughed it off at the time, but something had clearly shifted after that night. "I didn't want to do it," Maya continued, her voice trembling. "But she wouldn't stop. She said it was for my future. That I'd thank her one day." Carla reached across the table, grabbing Maya's hand. "Maya, this isn't okay. You need to tell someone." Maya shook her head vehemently. No. You don't understand. She's my mom. She's just trying to help. And if people are already talking, it'll only get worse if I make a big deal out of it. Carla's heart ached for her friend. She wanted to argue, to tell Maya that she deserved better, but she could see the fear in her eyes. Pushing her too hard wouldn't help. Okay, Carla said softly. But promise me you'll talk to me if things get worse. Maya nodded, though her expression remained haunted. The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch, and the two girls parted ways. But the unease lingered. That evening, Carla couldn't shake the image of Maya's altered appearance or the pain in her voice. She confided in her older brother, Miguel, who was studying social work at the local college. This sounds serious, Carla, Miguel said, his tone grave. It's not just about looks. It sounds like Maya's mom is projecting her own insecurities onto her. That kind of pressure can really mess someone up. Carla nodded, her stomach twisting with worry. But what can I do? Maya doesn't want to tell anyone. Miguel thought for a moment. You can't force her to speak up, but you can be there for her. And if things get worse, you might need to involve someone who can help, like a counselor or a teacher. Meanwhile, at the Thompson household, tension hung thick in the air. Linda Thompson paced the living room, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She glanced at the framed photos on the mantel, images of Maya as a baby, her chubby cheeks glowing with joy. Linda's own reflection in the glass stared back at her, stern and unyielding. I'm doing this for her, Linda muttered to herself, as if trying to convince her own reflection. She'll thank me one day. Maya sat silently on the couch, her arms wrapped around her knees. She wanted to argue, to tell her mother how much she hated what was happening, but she didn't have the strength. Linda's voice echoed in her mind, do you want to end up like me, struggling to make ends meet? You deserve better, Maya. But the world won't give it to you unless you play their game. The days that followed were a blur of awkward stares and whispered gossip. Maya tried to keep her head down, but the weight of her secret felt unbearable. At night, she stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, struggling to recognize the person staring back at her. The once vivid light in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by a hollow emptiness. One afternoon, as Maya sat alone under the oak tree in the schoolyard, Carla approached her, carrying 2 ice cream cones. Peace offering? Carla said with a small smile, holding out one of the cones. Maya hesitated before accepting it. Thanks, she murmured. The two friends sat in silence for a while, the quiet interrupted only by the rustle of leaves in the wind. Finally, Carla spoke. Maya, I know you think your mom is trying to help, but this isn't right. You don't have to change who you are to fit in. Tears welled up in Maya's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. I know, she whispered. But what if she's right? What if I'll never be good enough just as I am? Carla placed a hand on Maya's shoulder, her voice firm and resolute. You are good enough, Maya. And I'm going to prove it to you. Though Maya didn't say anything, a flicker of hope sparked in her chest. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel entirely alone. But deep down, she knew the road ahead would be anything but easy. In the distance, Linda watched from her car, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. She couldn't hear the conversation, but the sight of her daughter laughing with Carla stirred something in her, a pang of doubt that she quickly pushed aside. She'll thank me one day, Linda muttered again, starting the engine. But Linda Thompson sat in her dimly lit living room that evening, surrounded by the hum of silence. The house, though neat and orderly, felt heavy with unspoken tension. On the coffee table lay the remnants of her latest project, brochures, magazines, and clippings of women with fair skin and sleek hair, images that now haunted the space. She reached for her wine glass and took a long sip, her mind spinning with conflicted thoughts. After Maya's transformation, Linda had told herself that she was doing the right thing. She believed her actions were rooted in love, in a desperate desire to protect her daughter from the harshness of a world that had been unkind to her. But as the days passed, doubt began to creep in. The way Maya avoided her gaze, the way her laughter had all but disappeared, it gnawed at her. Yet, Linda was stubborn, unwilling to confront the possibility that her decision might have done more harm than good. The seeds of Linda's fixation had been planted years ago, though she would never admit it. Growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood, Linda had faced subtle and overt forms of discrimination that left her feeling invisible and less than. As a single mother, she wanted more for Maya, more acceptance, more opportunities, more respect. But instead of teaching Maya to love herself, Linda had internalized the belief that success and worth were tied to assimilation. It was a belief that now consumed her every thought. That night, Linda sat scrolling through her phone, reading articles about social mobility and beauty standards. She convinced herself that the end justified the means. But then she stumbled upon an article about a young girl who had sued her mother for forcing her to undergo cosmetic procedures. The headline sent a chill down Linda's spine. She closed the article quickly, her heart pounding. That's not the same as this, she told herself. This is different. I'm helping Maya. Upstairs, Maya lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She thought about the way her classmates looked at her now, as if she were a stranger. She thought about Carla's words under the oak tree, "You're good enough, Maya," and how desperately she wanted to believe them. But most of all, she thought about her mom. Maya loved her mother, but lately, that love felt tangled with resentment and confusion. Why couldn't her mom see that changing Maya's appearance hadn't made her life better? If anything, it had made her feel more isolated than ever. The next morning, Maya woke up to the smell of coffee brewing downstairs. She shuffled into the kitchen, still groggy, to find Linda sitting at the table with her laptop open. "Good morning," Linda said, her tone bright but forced. "Morning," Maya mumbled, reaching for a cereal box. Linda hesitated before speaking again. "Maya, I was thinking, maybe we could go shopping this weekend. Get you some new clothes to go with your new look." Maya froze, her hand hovering over the cereal bowl. She turned to face her mother, her expression unreadable. "I don't need new clothes," she said flatly. Linda frowned. "It's not about needing them. It's about presenting yourself well. First impressions matter, sweetheart. You want people to see you as polished and put together." Maya's jaw tightened. "Is that what this is about? Looking polished? Because it doesn't feel like it's about me at all." Linda blinked, caught off guard by the edge in Maya's voice. "Of course it's about you," she said defensively. "Everything I've done is for you." Maya slammed the cereal box onto the counter, her frustration boiling over. "No, Mom. Everything you've done is for you. You're the one who cares about what people think. You're the one who's embarrassed by how we look. Don't pretend this is about helping me, it's about fixing some problem you think we have." Linda's face flushed with anger and guilt. "That's not fair, Maya," she said sharply. "You have no idea how hard it is out there, especially for people like us. I'm trying to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Maya shot back. "From being myself? Because that's what it feels like. You made me change who I am, and now I don't even recognize myself." The room fell silent, the tension crackling like static electricity. Linda opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Maya stormed out of the kitchen, her cereal forgotten. Linda sat alone at the table, staring at the untouched cup of coffee in front of her. That afternoon, Maya found herself back under the oak tree at school, her safe haven from the prying eyes and judgmental stares. Carla joined her again, sitting down without a word. For a while, they just sat there in companionable silence, the rustling leaves filling the void. Finally, Carla broke the silence. "I was thinking about what you said the other day," she began. "About your mom trying to protect you." Maya sighed. "She thinks she's helping, but all she's doing is making me hate myself." Carla nodded. "It's not right, Maya. But maybe, just maybe, she's doing this because she hates herself." Maya looked at her friend, startled by the comment. "What do you mean?" Carla shrugged. "Think about it. Your mom's been through a lot, right? Maybe she's projecting all her insecurities onto you because she doesn't know how to deal with them herself." Maya considered Carla's words, a knot forming in her stomach. It made sense in a way, but it didn't make the situation any less painful. "So what do I do?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," Carla admitted. "But I do know this, you're not alone. And no matter what your mom says, you're amazing just the way you are." Maya managed a small smile, the first one in what felt like forever. "Thanks, Carla." Meanwhile, Linda sat in her car outside a local bookstore, debating whether to go inside. She had seen a flyer for a parenting workshop on self-esteem and had driven there on impulse. But now that she was there, she wasn't sure if she could go through with it. Attending the workshop felt like admitting she had done something wrong, and Linda wasn't ready to face that truth. But as she sat there, staring at the flyer in her hand, she thought about Maya's words that morning. "You made me change who I am." The guilt that had been simmering inside her boiled over, and Linda felt tears prick her eyes. She wiped them away quickly, glancing around to make sure no one saw her. Finally, she took a deep breath, grabbed her purse, and stepped out of the car. Inside the bookstore, Linda sat in the back of the small meeting room, listening as the speaker talked about the importance of nurturing a child's sense of self-worth. Every word felt like a dagger, cutting through Linda's defenses and forcing her to confront the reality of what she had done. By the end of the session, she felt both overwhelmed and determined. She didn't have all the answers yet, but she knew one thing: she needed to make things right with Maya. That night, Linda knocked softly on Maya's bedroom door. "Can I come in?" she asked. Maya hesitated before replying. "Yeah." Linda entered, sitting down on the edge of Maya's bed. For a moment, she didn't say anything, unsure of how to begin. Finally, she took a deep breath. "Maya, I want to apologize." Maya looked at her mother, surprised. "For what?" "For everything," Linda said, her voice thick with emotion. "For making you feel like you weren't good enough. For putting my insecurities onto you. I thought I was helping, but I see now that I was wrong." Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't say anything. Linda reached out and took her daughter's hand. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want you to know that I'm going to do better. You deserve to be loved and celebrated for exactly who you are." For the first time in weeks, Maya felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe things could get better. Maybe she could find her way back to herself. And the days following Linda's heartfelt apology were tentative and fraught with unspoken tension. Maya wanted to believe her mother's words, to trust that Linda was willing to change. But years of feeling invisible couldn't be undone with a single conversation. Still, there was a part of her, small but persistent, that hoped things could get better. Linda, on the other hand, threw herself into the daunting task of unlearning behaviors and beliefs she had carried for decades. She began reading books and watching videos about self-acceptance and racial identity. Every evening, after Maya went to bed, Linda would sit at the kitchen table, poring over articles and taking notes. She wanted to understand not just her daughter but also herself, her fears, her biases, and the pain she had inflicted. The more she learned, the more she realized how deep the roots of her prejudice ran. It wasn't overt hatred, but a quiet, insidious belief that she could shape Maya's life by making her conform to someone else's standards. Despite her efforts, progress was slow. Maya remained distant, her trust guarded. She would nod politely when Linda spoke, but her responses were clipped, her tone wary. Linda tried not to let it discourage her. She knew this was her mess to fix, and she was determined to show Maya that her intentions were genuine. One Saturday morning, Linda knocked on Maya's door with an unexpected proposal. "How about we spend the day together?" she asked, her voice uncertain. Maya hesitated, her expression skeptical. "Doing what?" "Anything you want," Linda replied. "It's your choice." Maya studied her mother's face, searching for any hint of an ulterior motive. Finally, she shrugged. "Okay. Let's go to the park." The park was quiet, the crisp autumn air carrying the faint scent of fallen leaves. Maya led Linda to the oak tree where she often sat with Carla. The sight of the familiar spot gave Maya a sense of comfort, a reminder that she wasn't completely alone in her struggles. Linda spread out a blanket beneath the tree, and they sat together in awkward silence. "So," Linda began, unsure of how to break the ice, "what do you and your friends talk about when you're here?" Maya glanced at her mother, surprised by the question. "Stuff," she said vaguely. "School, life, things that bother us." Linda nodded, trying to tread carefully. "What bothers you, Maya?" Maya hesitated, unsure of how much to share. Finally, she took a deep breath. "I don't like the way people look at me now. It's like they don't see me, they just see the changes you made. I feel fake." Linda's heart sank. "I never wanted you to feel that way," she said softly. "I thought I was helping, but I see now that I was only hurting you. I'm so sorry, Maya." Maya didn't respond right away. She stared at the leaves overhead, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the turmoil she felt inside. "I just want to be myself," she said finally. "But I don't know who that is anymore." Linda reached for her daughter's hand, her grip gentle but firm. "We'll figure it out together," she promised. "You don't have to go through this alone." As they sat under the oak tree, a sense of fragile hope began to take root. It wasn't a solution, but it was a start, a small step toward healing the rift between them. Over the next few weeks, Linda and Maya began to rebuild their relationship. It wasn't easy. There were moments of frustration, anger, and tears. But there were also moments of laughter and connection that reminded them both of the bond they once shared. Linda started attending therapy sessions to address her own insecurities, while Maya began meeting with a counselor at school to process her feelings. Slowly but surely, they were learning how to communicate openly and honestly. One evening, Maya came home with an idea. "There's this event at school next week," she told Linda. "It's about celebrating diversity. They're asking students to share something about their culture or heritage." Linda's stomach tightened at the mention of the word diversity. It was a concept she was still learning to embrace fully. "That sounds interesting," she said cautiously. "Do you want to participate?" Maya nodded. "I was thinking about bringing some of Grandma's recipes. You know, the ones she used to make when I was little." Linda's breath caught in her throat. Her mother, Maya's grandmother, had always been proud of their family's heritage, a pride that Linda had struggled to carry forward. Hearing Maya express interest in reconnecting with that part of herself was both humbling and inspiring. "I think that's a wonderful idea," Linda said, her voice thick with emotion. "I can help you if you'd like." The days leading up to the event were a flurry of activity. Linda and Maya spent hours in the kitchen, trying to recreate recipes that had been passed down through generations. There were moments of frustration, when the dough wouldn't rise, or the seasoning didn't taste quite right, but there were also moments of joy. They laughed as flour covered their faces and reminisced about the times they had spent cooking with Grandma. For the first time in a long time, Maya felt connected to something deeper than herself. And for Linda, it was a chance to rediscover a part of her identity she had long buried. The night of the event, Maya stood nervously in front of her classmates, a tray of carefully prepared dishes in her hands. She introduced herself and shared the story behind each recipe, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. As she spoke, she noticed something remarkable: the students weren't judging her. They were listening, their faces alight with curiosity and respect. For the first time in months, Maya felt seen, not for her appearance, but for who she was. Linda watched from the back of the room, her heart swelling with pride. She saw the way Maya's confidence grew with each passing moment, the way she held her head a little higher. In that moment, Linda realized that true beauty wasn't about fitting into someone else's standards, it was about embracing who you were, flaws and all. After the event, Maya and Linda walked to the car together, the cool night air filled with the sound of their laughter. "You were amazing tonight," Linda said, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. Maya smiled, her face glowing with happiness. "Thanks, Mom. I feel good. Like I'm starting to figure out who I am." Linda squeezed Maya's shoulder, her own eyes glistening with tears. "I'm so proud of you, Maya. And I promise, I'll always be here to support you, just the way you are." As they drove home, the weight that had hung over their relationship for so long began to lift. They knew there would still be challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long time, they felt hopeful. Together, they were learning that love wasn't about perfection, it was about acceptance, growth, and the courage to face the world as your true self. The weeks after the diversity event marked a slow but steady transformation in Maya and Linda's lives. Their bond, once frayed and fragile, was gradually becoming a source of strength for them both. But rebuilding their relationship was only one piece of the puzzle. Beneath the surface, both mother and daughter were still grappling with the deeper wounds that had shaped their struggles. For Maya, the event had been a turning point. Sharing her family's recipes and stories had reignited a part of her identity she thought had been erased. But now, she faced a different challenge: how to reconcile the girl she had been with the person she was becoming. At school, the whispers about her transformation had mostly faded, but Maya knew they weren't forgotten. Some classmates still gave her sideways glances, their curiosity thinly veiled. Others, like Carla, had been unwavering in their support, but even that wasn't enough to silence the questions in Maya's own mind. One afternoon, Maya found herself in front of the mirror, studying her reflection. She traced her fingers along her cheeks, her skin now several shades lighter than it once was. The changes her mother had insisted on were still there, etched into her appearance like a permanent reminder of the pain she had endured. But for the first time, Maya didn't just see the differences. She saw herself, the girl who had survived, who was still standing despite everything. That evening, Maya approached Linda with a decision that had been weighing on her for weeks. "Mom," she began hesitantly, "I think I want to undo the treatments." Linda looked up from the book she had been reading, her face a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "Undo them?" she repeated. Maya nodded. "I've been thinking about it a lot. I want to go back to the way I was before. Or at least as close to it as I can." Linda's heart sank. She knew this moment might come, but hearing the words out loud still hit her like a punch to the gut. "Are you sure?" she asked carefully. "It's a big decision, Maya. It might not be easy." "I know," Maya said firmly. "But I need to do this for me. I want to feel like myself again." Linda reached out and took Maya's hand, her grip trembling. "If that's what you want, I'll support you," she said softly. "We'll figure it out together." The next morning, Linda made an appointment with a dermatologist who specialized in reversing cosmetic treatments. As they sat in the waiting room, the air between them was thick with unspoken tension. Linda fidgeted with her purse, her mind racing with doubts and fears. What if the process was painful? What if it didn't work? Most of all, what if this was yet another decision she was failing to navigate as a parent? When they were called into the office, the doctor greeted them warmly and listened patiently as Maya explained her situation. He outlined the options available, emphasizing that the process would take time and that some changes might be irreversible. Maya nodded, her resolve unshaken. She was willing to endure whatever it took to reclaim her sense of self. The treatments began the following week. Each session was a reminder of the journey Maya had been on, a physical and emotional undoing of the choices that had been made for her. The procedures were uncomfortable, sometimes even painful, but Maya refused to back down. She saw each session as a step closer to freedom, a way to shed the layers of doubt and insecurity that had weighed her down for so long. For Linda, watching Maya go through the treatments was both humbling and heartbreaking. She had to confront the reality of what her choices had cost her daughter, the pain she had caused in her misguided attempt to protect her. But she also saw Maya's strength, her determination to reclaim her identity, and it filled Linda with a sense of awe. Her daughter was braver than she had ever realized. As the weeks turned into months, the changes in Maya's appearance were subtle but significant. Her skin began to regain its natural tone, and her features started to feel familiar again. With each session, Maya felt a little more like herself, a little more whole. But the journey wasn't just about her physical transformation. It was about rediscovering the parts of herself that had been buried under the weight of her mother's expectations. During this time, Maya also found solace in her community. She joined a cultural club at school, where she met other students who shared similar experiences. They bonded over their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs, creating a sense of belonging that Maya had longed for. She also began spending more time with Carla, whose unwavering support had been a lifeline during her darkest moments. One evening, as Maya and Carla sat on the swings at the park, Carla turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "You know," she said, "I've always admired you." Maya raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Admired me? For what?" "For being you," Carla said simply. "You've been through so much, and you're still standing. That's pretty amazing." Maya smiled, her chest swelling with gratitude. "Thanks, Carla. That means a lot." Meanwhile, Linda was undergoing her own transformation. She continued attending therapy and workshops, determined to unlearn the toxic beliefs that had shaped her decisions. She started volunteering at a local community center, working with young girls to build their confidence and self-esteem. Through these experiences, Linda began to see the world through a different lens, a lens that celebrated diversity and individuality rather than conformity. One evening, Linda and Maya sat together in the living room, a rare moment of quiet amidst their busy lives. Linda reached for a photo album on the coffee table and opened it to a page filled with pictures of Maya as a little girl. "You've always been beautiful," Linda said, her voice filled with emotion. "I'm so sorry I made you feel like you weren't." Maya looked at the photos, her heart swelling with a mix of sadness and gratitude. "Thanks, Mom," she said softly. "I think I'm finally starting to believe that." As the months passed, the changes in Maya's appearance became less noticeable to those around her. But for Maya, the journey had been transformative in ways that went far beyond the surface. She had reclaimed her identity, her sense of self, and her relationship with her mother. And in doing so, she had discovered a strength within herself that she never knew she had. For Linda, the journey was a humbling reminder of the power of love and the importance of listening, to others, to herself, and to the truths that were often uncomfortable to confront. She knew she couldn't erase the mistakes of the past, but she could choose to do better in the future. And that, she realized, was the greatest gift she could give to her daughter. As they sat together under the oak tree one sunny afternoon, Maya turned to Linda with a thoughtful expression. "Do you think people can really change?" she asked. Linda smiled, her gaze fixed on the leaves swaying in the breeze. "I think people can grow," she said. "And sometimes, that's even better." Maya nodded, a sense of peace settling over her. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be, surrounded by love, resilience, and the unwavering belief that she was enough, just as she was. The months that followed Maya's decision to undo her treatments marked a new chapter in her life, one that was filled with discovery, resilience, and the slow but meaningful process of healing. Both Maya and Linda were navigating uncharted waters, but for the first time in years, they were doing it together. The journey hadn't been easy, there were moments of doubt and setbacks along the way, but each day brought a small victory, a sign that they were moving towards something better. Maya's physical transformation, though gradual, was nearing its completion. She was beginning to see her natural features again when she looked in the mirror, but what mattered more to her was the sense of identity she was reclaiming. The treatments had been just one part of the journey, the bigger challenge had been rebuilding her self-esteem and learning to embrace who she truly was. Maya started keeping a journal, writing down her thoughts and feelings as a way to process everything she had been through. The act of putting pen to paper was cathartic, allowing her to confront her insecurities and celebrate her progress. One afternoon, while flipping through her journal, Maya came across an entry she had written months earlier, at the height of her struggle. The words on the page were raw and painful, a snapshot of a time when she felt lost and invisible. Reading it now, she realized just how far she had come. It wasn't just about her appearance, she had grown stronger, more confident, and more self-assured. For the first time, Maya felt proud of herself, not for meeting someone else's expectations, but for standing up for her own truth. At school, Maya's confidence didn't go unnoticed. Her teachers praised her for her engagement in class, and her classmates began to see her in a new light. Maya had always been quiet, content to stay in the background, but now she was finding her voice. She joined the debate team, surprising everyone, including herself, with her eloquence and ability to articulate her thoughts. Competing in debates gave Maya a platform to express her opinions, and it quickly became one of her favorite activities. The experience taught her the power of her words and the importance of standing up for what she believed in. Linda, meanwhile, was continuing her own journey of growth. Therapy had become a cornerstone of her life, helping her unpack the beliefs and biases she had carried for so long. She was learning to let go of the need for control, to trust that Maya could make her own decisions and find her own path. Linda also began attending community events that celebrated diversity and inclusion, immersing herself in cultures and perspectives she had once been reluctant to embrace. These experiences were eye-opening, forcing Linda to confront her own privilege and the ways it had shaped her worldview. One evening, Linda was invited to speak at a panel discussion about parenting and identity. She hesitated at first, unsure if she was ready to share her story with strangers. But as she thought about everything she and Maya had been through, Linda realized that their journey could help others who were struggling with similar challenges. The event was held at a local library, and as Linda took the stage, she felt a wave of nervous energy wash over her. She glanced at Maya, who was sitting in the front row, and drew strength from her daughter's encouraging smile. Linda began by sharing the mistakes she had made as a mother, openly admitting to the pain she had caused Maya. She spoke about the pressures she had felt to conform to societal expectations, and how those pressures had blinded her to the beauty of her daughter's individuality. "It wasn't easy to face my own biases," Linda said, her voice steady despite the emotion in her words. "But I've learned that love means accepting people for who they are, not who we want them to be." The audience listened intently, and when Linda finished speaking, the room erupted in applause. Several people approached her afterward to thank her for her honesty, sharing their own stories of struggle and growth. Linda left the event feeling both humbled and inspired, determined to continue being an advocate for change. At home, Linda and Maya's relationship continued to evolve. They started new traditions, like cooking dinner together every Sunday or taking long walks in the park to talk about their week. These moments of connection became the foundation of their bond, a reminder of the progress they had made. Linda also made a point to celebrate Maya's achievements, big and small. Whether it was acing a test or delivering a powerful speech in a debate competition, Linda was always there to cheer her on. One day, Maya surprised Linda with a project she had been working on in secret. It was a scrapbook filled with photos, letters, and memories from their journey. The first page featured a picture of them under the oak tree at the park, with the words, "Our Story," written in bold letters. As Linda flipped through the pages, tears filled her eyes. The scrapbook wasn't just a collection of memories, it was a testament to their resilience, a celebration of the love that had carried them through even the darkest moments. "Thank you, Maya," Linda said, her voice thick with emotion. "This means more to me than you'll ever know." Maya smiled, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "I wanted us to have something to look back on," she said. "Something to remind us how far we've come." As the months turned into years, Maya and Linda continued to grow, both as individuals and as a family. Maya graduated from high school with honors, earning a scholarship to a prestigious university where she planned to study psychology. She wanted to help others who were struggling with identity and self-esteem, using her own experiences as a source of empathy and insight. Linda, too, found new purpose in her advocacy work, dedicating her time to supporting families and fostering conversations about acceptance and inclusion. Their journey wasn't perfect, there were still challenges, moments of doubt, and the occasional argument. But through it all, Maya and Linda had learned to lean on each other, to communicate openly and honestly, and to celebrate the beauty of their differences. They had discovered that love wasn't about changing someone to fit your vision, it was about embracing them for who they truly were. On a sunny afternoon, as they sat together under the oak tree that had become their special spot, Maya turned to Linda with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever think about how different things would be if none of this had happened?" she asked. Linda considered the question, her gaze fixed on the sunlight filtering through the leaves. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But then I think about how much we've grown because of it. And I wouldn't trade that for anything." Maya nodded, a sense of peace settling over her. "Me neither," she said softly. "I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be." As they sat in comfortable silence, the world around them seemed to fade away. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was theirs, a story of love, growth, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her daughter. As Maya prepared to leave for college, the house was filled with a mixture of excitement, nerves, and the bittersweet realization that a new chapter was beginning. Linda watched her daughter pack with an ache in her heart, the kind only a parent could understand. The quiet of the house would feel unbearable without Maya's laughter echoing through the halls. But Linda also knew this moment symbolized something much greater, a testament to the resilience and growth both of them had fought so hard to achieve. Maya had chosen to attend a university several hours away, a decision that had initially made Linda nervous. The thought of her daughter being so far from home was daunting, especially given all they had been through. But Linda had learned that letting go was part of loving someone. She trusted Maya's judgment and knew her daughter was ready to spread her wings. Still, as the departure date grew closer, Linda found herself struggling to let go of her protective instincts. The night before Maya's move, Linda prepared a special dinner, cooking all of Maya's favorite dishes. The dining table was set with care, candles flickering softly in the dim light. As they sat down to eat, the air was filled with warmth and nostalgia. They laughed about old memories, like the time Maya had tried to bake a cake and ended up with a flour-covered kitchen, or when Linda had attempted to teach Maya to ride a bike and they both ended up in a heap of laughter on the grass. After dinner, they moved to the living room, where Linda presented Maya with a small, wrapped gift. "Open it," Linda urged, her voice tinged with anticipation. Maya carefully unwrapped the package to reveal a simple but elegant bracelet. On the inside of the band, an inscription read, "Be yourself. Always." Maya's eyes filled with tears as she slid the bracelet onto her wrist. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered. "This means so much." Linda reached over and squeezed Maya's hand. "You've taught me so much, Maya. More than I ever thought possible. I want you to carry this reminder with you, no matter where you go." The next morning, the house was a flurry of activity as they loaded Maya's belongings into the car. The drive to the university was filled with a mix of excitement and reflection. As they approached the campus, Maya's nerves began to show. "What if I don't fit in?" she asked hesitantly. "What if I mess this up?" Linda glanced at her daughter, her heart swelling with pride and empathy. "You're going to be amazing," she said firmly. "And if you ever need me, I'm just a phone call away." The campus was buzzing with energy as students and their families bustled about, carrying boxes and exchanging goodbyes. Maya's dorm room was small but cozy, with a view of the quad that promised vibrant student life. As they unpacked her belongings, Linda found herself offering unsolicited advice about organizing drawers and keeping the mini-fridge stocked. Maya laughed, her mother's fussing a comforting reminder of home. When the time came to say goodbye, Linda hugged Maya tightly, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm so proud of you, Maya. Don't ever forget how strong and capable you are." Maya clung to her mother, feeling both a sense of loss and a surge of independence. "I'll make you proud, Mom," she said softly. "I promise." The drive home was quiet, the emptiness in the passenger seat a stark contrast to the vibrancy of the morning. Linda allowed herself a moment of tears, letting the bittersweet reality of the day sink in. But as she pulled into the driveway, she reminded herself that this was a step forward, not just for Maya, but for both of them. In the weeks that followed, Linda threw herself into her volunteer work, finding solace in helping others. She became a mentor for young mothers, sharing her own experiences and encouraging them to embrace their children's individuality. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. The community center where she volunteered nominated her for an award recognizing her contributions. At the ceremony, Linda spoke candidly about her journey, acknowledging the mistakes she had made and the lessons she had learned. Her words resonated deeply with the audience, many of whom saw their own struggles reflected in her story. Maya, meanwhile, was thriving at college. She quickly found her footing, joining clubs and making friends who shared her passion for cultural exploration and advocacy. Her psychology classes ignited a fire within her, and she began volunteering at a campus organization that provided support for students dealing with identity struggles. Maya's own experiences gave her a unique perspective, and her empathy made her a natural leader. She started hosting workshops and discussion groups, creating a safe space for others to share their stories. One evening, Maya called Linda, her voice brimming with excitement. "Mom, you won't believe this," she said. "I'm organizing a campus-wide event about identity and self-acceptance. It's going to be huge." Linda's heart swelled with pride. "That's incredible, Maya. I know you'll make a difference." As the months passed, Maya and Linda stayed in close contact, their bond stronger than ever. They spoke regularly, sharing updates about their lives and supporting each other through challenges. On one particularly memorable call, Maya shared a revelation that left Linda speechless. "Mom," she began hesitantly, "I've been thinking a lot about everything we've been through. And I want to write about it, a book, maybe, or a series of essays. I think our story could help people." Linda was silent for a moment, overwhelmed by the idea. "I think that's a wonderful idea, Maya," she said finally. "Our journey hasn't been easy, but if sharing it can help even one person, it's worth it." Maya smiled, feeling a sense of purpose take root. "I couldn't have done this without you, Mom. Thank you for believing in me." The following year, Maya's event on campus was a resounding success, drawing hundreds of attendees and sparking meaningful conversations about identity and acceptance. Linda attended as a guest speaker, sharing her perspective as a parent and the lessons she had learned. The sight of her mother speaking so openly and vulnerably filled Maya with a deep sense of gratitude. They had come so far, together and individually, and this moment felt like a culmination of their shared journey. As Linda wrapped up her speech, she turned to Maya with a smile. "If there's one thing I've learned," she said, it's that the most important thing we can do is love each other for who we truly are. And I'm so proud of the person you've become, Maya." The room erupted in applause, the energy electric. Maya stood, tears glistening in her eyes, and hugged her mother tightly. It wasn't the end of their story, far from it. But it was a powerful reminder of how far they had come and the unbreakable bond they shared. In the years that followed, Maya published her book, a heartfelt exploration of her journey and the lessons she had learned. It resonated with readers around the world, sparking conversations and inspiring change. Linda continued her advocacy work, becoming a prominent voice in her community and beyond. Together, they proved that even the most fractured relationships could be rebuilt with love, understanding, and a commitment to growth. Their story was far from perfect, but it was theirs, a testament to the power of resilience and the beauty of embracing one's true self.